once again, let me wish you all good afternoon to you all. Let me first welcome you all to this brainstorming session on Vision Kerala. On behalf of TiE Kerala, let me extend my warm welcome to our eminent panel of speakers. We have with us Mr. Thomas Isaac, former Finance and COA Minister, Government of Kerala. Mrs. Aruna Sundarajan, former Secretary in the Ministries of Steel, IT and Telecom, Government of India. Mr. C. Balagopal, Chairman, the Federal Bank Limited. Mr. Joe A. Sakriya of Geometric View. Mr. Sam Santosh, Founder and Managing Trustee of C Genome Research Foundation. Mr. Rajesh Nair, Associate Partner, Ernst & Young, who will be our moderator for the session. I'm hoping in today's discussion, we will be touching upon multiple challenges of Kerala. But more importantly, I believe we should focus on the practical, effective, low-cost, sustainable solutions. We have an eminent panel, so we will be having diverse opinions. And what TiE Kerala would do is we would compile all these opinions and we submit the paper to the government. We also do our best to ensure that the message is spread everywhere. Now, let me just touch upon a few points. It is predicted that India will be the third largest economy by 2035. Where do we see Kerala in 2035? Now, these are important questions we need to ask ourselves. In fact, Mr. V.K. Matthews, in one of his articles in Manorama, he had mentioned a few specific challenges faced in Kerala. So I thought I'd mention a few of these challenges. And I'm hoping, the panel maybe can touch upon some of these challenges. But like I mentioned before, the focus is on arriving at concrete, sustainable, low-cost solutions. One challenge he spoke about was migration of our educated youth or talented youth. So we do have a large number of our youngsters who are traveling abroad for studies, and majority of them do not return. So they move on and they settle there. So how do we retain our educated youth? In fact, we had a similar panel discussion during the Kerala Lit Fest where we had Mr. Balagopal and Mr. Sam was also there, and I was moderating the session. At the end of the session, we had an interesting feedback from the audience. One of the ladies got up and said, I don't know why the youth or the boys are not coming back to Kerala, but I definitely know why the young girls are not coming back to Kerala. There is no freedom here. So that was a point which she raised, and I thought that was a very valid point, which, as a feedback that came from the audience. In Mr. V.K. Matthews' article, he also spoke about the migrant labor. He said the migrant labor is growing from 32 lakh, it will go to 60 lakh by 2030. So there is a question of whether Kerala will become a retirement state in future. So these are just questions we're hoping the panel can talk about, and maybe we could come up with some concrete solutions. Another point raised was lack of investments flowing into the state. In the past 2.5 years, it's from October 2019 to March 2022, India received $142 billion in external investments. Kerala's share was a paltry 0.42%. So how do we increase investments into the state? Glaring trade deficit and debt. In the financial year 2022, Kerala imported 1.5 lakh crore worth of goods and services from other states and exported only 55,000 crore to other states. Again, highlighting a trade deficit of 1 lakh. How do we correct this? Then he also mentioned about the disruptive political model that we have. We follow a very disruptive, all-opposing, protesting approach than a positive, constructive approach. So from his point of view, the purpose of all this disruptive drama is to communicate to the citizens that our party is better than other parties. But what he was also trying to say that there are better ways to communicate the message. So next point is how do we correct our waste management system? So what do we need to do? And a very important subject which I would like to bring here is also how do we increase the percentage of women into the workforce? Now, many of my charter members, colleagues always tell me that I always bring the agenda and the women issue into most discussions. That is because you cannot discuss the future of Kerala without discussing women, because we do form 51% of the population. And entrepreneurship among women will boost economic growth, increase GDP and stability dramatically. So we all are aware that it is currently an untapped source of economic growth. So how do we go about bringing more women entrepreneurs and also women into the workforce? How do we take care of specific issues like lack of capital, lack of support, personal professional life balance, because women do live in a highly patriarchal society. So one of the larger purposes of these sessions is to spread this message to all stakeholders involved. So I would also like a few minutes spent on, how do we spread this message out there? So including bureaucrats to the public at large, everybody should get the message. So TiE Kerala plans to execute this Vision Kerala as a series every quarter. We started off in 2021. We had our first panel discussion then during TiECon, and then again TiECon 2022 we had our second, and this would be our third session, and we plan to continue this as a series. The whole point is so that we have discussions and we have solutions and make decisions, and we would compile all the important points that come out of the discussion. It will be compiled and it will be handed over to the industry department. So thank you, and
good afternoon, everyone. As Anisha said, we want to do this as a series, and we want to continue doing this on a regular frequency, perhaps every quarter or at least couple of times in a year. What we want to do out here, let me reiterate, is I think all of us are to an extent experts on what is not happening out here, and all of us are experts on what are the negatives that we have in the state. And like all educated societies, most of our conversations are also about humor, satire, and cynicism about things which happen around us. That's the nature of all educated societies. Kerala is not different. What we want to do in some of these sessions is to deliberate a lot more on the positives. So while there are negatives, and of course we need to attack those negatives, what we intend to bring out during these sessions is what are those positives that we can manage. And I firmly believe that management in any field is about the management of positives. It's about bringing out that positive vibe. It's about, and we owe it to the generation coming after us to have those positive thoughts around what is in it for the future, and what could be a good vision for the future. In this particular session, the format that we have thought is we will have each of these speakers talking for close to 10 to 12 minutes in the beginning about the topic, their own perspectives, and I'll introduce each of the speakers, their own perspectives about the topic. And subsequently, we will also circle back and ask them about 3 things which they find exciting about Kerala. And of course, while we are not saying that don't talk about challenges, they can also talk about challenges if they so have to. And then we will open it up for questions. As Anisha said, the intention of having close to a 1-hour Q&A with each of you is for you to ask some of these questions, for you to ponder some of those things, and for you to ask what next, and from what some of these speakers have explained during their respective talks. So that's the broad format that we are looking for. I work with Ernst & Young. I came to Kerala to set up our operations in 2010, and across the last 10-12 years we have grown from that single digit 1 to close to 10,000 now. So forgive me if I sound overly optimistic and if I'm clinically optimistic about what's possible in this state. So that's where we sort of started off from. We have Mr. Thomas Isaac. I don't want to read out CVs of any of the speakers. All of you know these speakers very well. But let me explain why we wanted them particularly on stage and talking to you. So Thomas Isaac, besides the multiple political roles and several other roles, what is interesting is his take on economics, and you would have heard him sit on some of these finance committees nationally and make such an impact, not just for people around him, but even for people who read him. It's a huge amount of impact that he brings in. And I had the opportunity to read multiple articles of his in the EPW. And some of these articles are very lucid and very interesting to understand. And the way he understands economics is it's a very rare quality to understand economics the way he explains. The last book I read of his is it's called The Possible World, Another Possible World. It's a take on Kerala where he looks at a vision for Kerala to an extent, but also looking at history and what has happened in multiple phases of history, including how Kerala looked at the pandemic and sort of overcame the pandemic. We welcome you, sir, to the gathering. We have Mr. C. Balagopal, Balasan, as most of you call him. And again, all of you know his credentials. He's the founder president of TiE. We are all here perhaps because of him. At least Ernst & Young is here because of him, because during one of those initial conversations I had, much before I wanted to move to Kerala, he sort of convinced me that this is the place to be, and this is where a business like EY needs to thrive in. And we are always happy for those. Balasan has a very, very interesting view, which is, a lot of people say it's the contrarian view. And one of those jokes that we used to have is, everybody talks about the decline of manufacturing in Kerala. And the funny thing is, there has been no decline. And there is, manufacturing has really thrived out here. A certain kind of manufacturing, and those of you who've not read his book, the book is out here. Please pick it up. It's a disservice to yourself if you've not read this book, because it really gives you a very different perspective on Kerala than what is portrayed in the media, than what we think, and than even for outsiders who look at Kerala. It's a very interesting take on Kerala, where he's profiled 50 manufacturing companies in Kerala and found common threads and explained how each of these companies are extremely interesting. And it's so fascinating to read that manufacturing is hiding in plain sight in Kerala, and we are just not seeing it. That's the view Balasan brings in to this gathering. We welcome you all to this. We have Aruna ma'am here. Aruna ma'am had a illustrious career in the IAS, and she continues advising multiple bodies. And one large connection with TiE is also, she's been instrumental in when this entire startup movement started. This is in 2013. We did what we call as a Student Entrepreneur Day on September 13th of 2013, where we envisaged that 30 entrepreneurs would go to 30 management schools and engineering colleges in Kerala. And that was probably the first official function that TiE sort of partnered with the government in. And she was instrumental for doing all that. I think in the later part of her career, she's been right at the thick of things of this entire movement on digital. She has seen India Stack up front. She's been part of that entire movement, and we hope to hear that view of what she saw nationally. And since she's been in Kerala for many years in multiple administrative roles, we hope to hear that view as well. We welcome you, ma'am. Sam is another exciting entrepreneur, and we keep saying that Sam's weakness is that he can think of only 12 things at a time, and his strength is also that he can do 12 things at a time. There is no word for, we only know the word serial entrepreneur, but there are multiple other words to describe Sam. Some people call him a string entrepreneur, that, he gets into an area, he'll suddenly start 5 companies in that area, and then, that's the force of entrepreneurship which he brings. Fascinating account of entrepreneurial wisdom, which is encapsulated. The reason why we wanted Sam in this panel also is not just because he's an entrepreneur, but because he looks at innovation very differently. There is something called combinatorial innovation, where he has seen, he's picked up biology, he's picked up computational maths, and he's used the information technology experience of his past ventures, and he's brought it all together for some extremely interesting ventures in genomics. And he's widely called as the genome man, and definitely he's amongst the pioneers in that subject in India. And all through these years, he has divided his time between Kerala and the US, and brings in the best of the US, and brings in the best of technology. We've got some phenomenal speakers through his connects over the years at TiE to speak about what's happening in technology and what's happening in the outside world. We welcome you, Sam, to this. We have Joe here. Joe Scaria, he comes with a lot of journalism background. He has that ability to dig deep, and he has that that investigative blend into whatever he does, and that brings out some fascinating videos which some of you might have watched. And he is what we call as a social media influencer today in Kerala, for lack of a better word. And tomorrow, I'm sure, like all social media influencers, we are waiting to see what all products Joe sells as well, besides his wisdom in Kerala. And Joe brings in a very sociological, a little bit of economics, a little bit of anthropology. He brings you a very different facet about Kerala, which at times, when you see some of his videos, it sounds and it looks very intuitive, but it's not very easy to to judge it that way and to articulate it that way. And while a lot of his videos are funny and there's a lot of satire in it, we are sure that he will have some positive features about Kerala to give us today as well. Joe, happy to have you here on this day. As Anisha mentioned, he's written and published multiple articles on what Kerala can be and what Kerala should be. And some of those initial taglines that TiE itself picked up for some of his conferences on making Kerala the finest place to live and work, etc., came from some of his articles. I very fondly want to remember and hope that we'll have BK for the other sessions. As a final note, just to remind you, this is part of a series. We will have several of these discussions. Each and every time we want to have the discussions summarized into a paper, and we want to present it to the government. We just don't want to give a hands-off paper and finish it off there. We also want to see how we can participate in helping the government achieve some of these, and not just helping the government, but also helping the business and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Kerala. So this is where we'll begin. The speakers can speak from their own seats, or they can use the podium as well. I think we'll just, I don't want to do alphabetical, etc. We'll just start with Joe. So the first round of conversations is 10 to 12 minutes on their own take on Kerala, what they find exciting about Kerala. And then we circle back again. We'll start with Sam at this time in the second round, and we'll look at some 3-4 things which they find exciting about Kerala, and they can mention challenges as well, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh, for the introduction, and happy to be here at TiE, which I believe is Kerala's think tank as far as and the action part also as far as industry, business, commerce, and everything goes. I hoped Rajesh would get a specialist to speak on this before, instead of asking a generalist to start the discussion. Do you want to change your mind even now? Okay, yeah. So good afternoon. Actually, when Rajesh invited me, I was quite intrigued why he would have a journalist on a panel of otherwise eminent politics, the services. And he has given me this one-liner that we are going to be talking about the positives of Kerala and what we can learn from them. And so that's like incapacitating me, asking me to talk about the positives. But I'll make a challenge out of it, I hope. When I look at Kerala, let me say these three things. The job of a journalist, everybody on earth has a job, we believe, except us journalists. You don't ask somebody says, I'm a teacher, you don't ask them, so what do you do? It's very obvious. It's where you teach. Or when somebody says, I'm a painter, you don't ask, meaning what? No, you paint. It's taken for granted. Or you're an athlete, don't ask, whether you run or not. But a journalist, actually we do nothing. We actually sit and look at what everybody else does and pass comments, which I think is the best job on earth. So you can imagine somebody who has been doing that for 40 years, has done no work, but judge others, make comments and all that. So, which is why I asked Rajesh whether I would be the right person to start. But having got the mic, let me start. We're talking about 2030, 35 and all that. I think three things that Kerala must be aware of and consider seriously are: one, population; two, jobs; and three, climate. Population, we are exactly 3.5 months since the 8 billionth child was born on Earth. November 15th, our population became 8 billion on Earth. Today we are at the last day of February, so that's exactly 3.5 months. So the world has been growing ever since we know history. The population has only increased. But the dynamics are now going to change for the first time. We are probably the luckiest people to see this phenomenon of the world population peaking, stabilizing, plateauing, and falling. We never imagined that there would be fewer people on Earth, which is now a very close reality before us. And Kerala is very different from the rest of the world, except some parts, that we are seeing a decline. While the world is hitting 8 billion, we have stabilized, we are ahead of the world. If you look at it, we always talk about China and India with 1.4 billion population each. Which is the third largest populated country? Actually, we shouldn't even give them the third rank. It's the United States with a mere 32 crore. We have 140 crore each. First rank, second rank, 140 crore. Third rank, just 32 crore. And the other 190 countries are 8 and 6 and 4 and 2 and 1.5 and nothing. So if you look at the big picture, only two countries are there in the world, India and China. The rest don't matter. UK is just double of Kerala. Or France is just about less than Tamil Nadu. So that's how the population breakup is. What is important is, but for 8 countries in the world, we would have started declining much before. And these 8 countries are Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria. I'm saying in the order of their growths. Pakistan, Philippines, and Tanzania. Only these 8 countries are producing children. Nobody else is. Everybody else has plateaued or has started the decline. Why am I bringing the world picture into this? Because it matters a lot where Kerala is placed. South Korea has the lowest fertility on earth. It is 1.05. So between 1980 and 2022, South Korea closed 3,500 schools. Today they're looking for onion farmers from Kerala. We all heard of that when ODPEC was hiring people from Kerala to work on the onion farms in South Korea. Kerala so closely mirrors South Korea. Pathanamthitta district had negative population growth in 2001, 22 years ago, and went even worse in 2011. And we don't have the 2021 figures anywhere in India because the census figures are not out. It probably, in another 10 years, there will be no Pathanamthitta district unless other people go and stay there. That's how bad Kerala is, and so good compared to developed countries. We are ahead of those developed countries in population fall. 5-6 days ago, if you noticed page 1 of Malayalam Manorama, it gave a graphic of a slate, a child's slate, and wrote 6035, and then put a cross mark. 6035 vacancies for teachers, because that's the number of teachers who retired last year, which would be the number of teachers to be hired into government schools this year. Cut, and under that a number was written, I think 1,400 odd. Because 4,600 odd vacancies will not be filled up. See that fall from 6,000 teachers required to a mere 1,400 teachers required, because there are no kids in Kerala schools. The question to think well before 2030 for Kerala is, what are we going to do with all the empty schools in this state? Look at the other side, the higher education. 53,000 engineering seats. We have 23,000 vacant. What will we do with all those engineering college buildings? Massive ones, much bigger than schools. Will they become Amazon cargo centers? We've got time to think about it, and it's in front of our eyes. And look at the other side of the population problem. We are aging. Kerala is aging just like the developed countries. We mirror the developed countries on almost every parameter in aging also. What are we going to do with all the aged people? We have 560 plus old age homes in Kerala. We need many more. Can we turn our schools into old age homes? Possibly that's one use we can put them to. The Catholic Church is already thinking of replicating one fantastic strategy it had 150 years ago of having a Pallikudam with every Palli. So the Palli and the Pallikudam educated much of Kerala, from Tellicherry right down to Trivandrum. So will it be a school converted to old age home, or every Palli having, instead of a school Pallikudam, an old age home? I think I've taken 4 minutes of my 10. So let me hop to my second point, is jobs. All my 3 points are connected: population, jobs, and climate. Jobs, on the jobs front, why are our youth leaving Kerala? I have a co-panelist, Balagopal, who is very positive, bullish on Kerala, saying manufacturing is here. IT certainly is doing well, but probably in comparison, we are not up there, which is why the nearest place any youth in Kerala today thinks of when you come out of college, is a job in Chennai or Bangalore or Mumbai or Delhi. And if not in any of these places, then UK, Australia, New Zealand, US, wherever, Canada. So with not adequate jobs or suitable jobs, our youth will keep on migrating. And we have all these vacant houses. One of my videos recently said 1.2 million vacant houses in Kerala, and youth migrating. Rajesh, you spoke highly of geometric view. I'll tell you a secret. The first time I'm saying this because I myself got my heart attack only 2 days ago. My videographer says he's going to go to the UK. So geometric has got a 1 month notice. Find somebody else or you shut down your channel. I'm sure so many companies must be facing this. And I produced my video from a village where I may not find another competent person. I may have to migrate to Cochin to find my next videographer. So, and because these youth are migrating, places like Idiki, I come from Kottayam district, Idiki is seeing we had Kudiyatam 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Now we have Kudirakam. They're all on the reverse migration because agriculture is finished. Nobody survives on agriculture. And no girl in my part of the world would marry somebody who has land only and survives on farm. They all know what they get from a farm. And all these girls are in UK as nurses in NHS, and there's no comparison between their salary and a tea planter in Idiki district. So that's a sociological problem happening in Idiki. And with that Kudirakam, the retreat, has come all the wild animals. I'm sitting in Kanjirapalli today. I'm surrounded by elephants, tigers. You probably saw 3 tigers eating a cow 3 days back. It was all across Kerala media. In Vandiperiyar, which is only some 70 kilometers from my home, we have bison, tigers, leopards, and elephants all around. Some elephants have a special liking for Russian kadas, so they come and loot the Russian kadas. So all of that is happening. As more and more youth leave, we have a problem. That should set us thinking, why can't we retain them here? We are seeing it in front of our eyes. Recently, one of the, I don't know if you're aware, Kochi has 538 overseas consultants. 538 in this small town. If they send even, 10 people outside, they must be, because there's an office here paying rent and having staff. If they don't even send 10 people outside every month, they can't be surviving. I'm saying a pessimistic 10 per overseas consultant per month. It's 5,000 plus youth going out every month from here, from this town. Kanjirapalli now has 4. Every little town. Certainly, it's high time we thought, what will we do with those colleges, college buildings and school buildings. And as businessmen in this room, who am I going to hire 5 years from now and 7 years from now and 10 years from now, if all Keralites leave this place? And I give you one statistic. Please check this out, because it completely beats me how this can be true. 1961, Kerala had 43% of its population in the 0 to 14 age bracket. 43%, 1961. And I'm 1961 born. 2021, 50 years later, 60 years later, 0 to 14, only 23%. No kids are being born here. No kids are being born here. I teach at a few institutes. At the Trivandrum Press Club this is my 25th year. For the last 15 years, I'm telling them, after you pass out from journalism, your first job is not to start reporting. Your first job is to start producing a child. This country will cease to exist. Kerala certainly will cease to exist in front of our eyes. This is nationalism. If you love your nation, please produce some kids and make them stay here and not flee this country. So if this statistic is true, the end is nigh. Only 23% of our population now 0 to 14. Kerala is already aged. We are not going to talk about an aging society. We are an aged society. And 3, climate. Affects all of us, whatever business we are in. Some places in India are now touching 50 degrees. And Delhi is edging closer to that. Imagine 4 more degrees, a man cannot survive. 54 degrees, no man can survive, will die. It's just 4 degrees that keeps some cities in India from being just wiped out. There'll be no humanity there. We are as close to that. Sitting in Kochi in the comfort of this air-conditioned room, we think that it's not here. Antarctic, the snow is melting. But I tell you, it is happening right at our doorstep in Kerala. Many of you may not have noticed, because I'm a journalist and my job is to do nothing and look at other people. I observed this. In November 2022, 4 months, in Kuravelangad, in a school, there's an inter-school competition going on, cultural competition and sports competition, inter-school. So different schools have come there. A girl badminton player, it was so hot that a girl badminton player not sunstroke, but she swooned and fell because of the heat. She's being carried on a stretcher into the school, onto the veranda from the badminton court. And inside the school, the cultural competitions are going on. There was this clay mold competition, clay modeling. And all the students had completed their clay modeling, and the judges were walking into the room to assess who's the best. And this girl is being brought out from the sun. In 10 minutes, there's such a downpour that the school is flooded. All the clay models were washed out in a flood out of the school. Can you believe this happening in Kottayam district, Kuravalangad, just 100 days before? If this is not climate change in front of our house, what is? Extreme sun, one girl burned out. In 10 minutes, that place is flooded and nobody can enter the school. So the future is here, whether it's good or bad. I must have crossed my 10 minutes. Maybe at the second round, I'll get some time to.
Knew that being on this panel, it was going to be a hard act to follow, either Mr. Thomas Isaac or one of the other eminent speakers. But Joe has just knocked us flat. And I'm glad in retrospect that Rajesh chose him to go first, because after that really cataclysmic scenario that he has unfolded in front of us, the rest of the panel can make valiant efforts to show that the future is much brighter than that. No, first of all, I have to say that, the two big elephants in the room that he mentioned, one is the issue of depopulation and the other issue of climate change. Fortunately, Kerala is not the only, state or region that's battling these problems. These are truly global, universal issues. And so hopefully there will be many minds and, many regions around the world where people will be making attempts to address these issues. So I will not pretend or even attempt to say that, these are the solutions to the big issues that Joe raised. But I certainly want to share what I hope will be a slightly more cheerful perspective for Kerala. So first of all, let me compliment TiE. I think we do have these discussions on what should be an appropriate vision for Kerala from time to time. But I think at this juncture, there is a particular topicality and relevance to this topic. Notwithstanding what Joe has said, if we look at India as a whole, India is emerging as one of the bright spots on the globe. One, because as he said, along with those 7 other countries, fortunately, we are a country where the population is still young and continues to grow, although not in Kerala. But also because, our economy has acquired a certain scale, a momentum, a trajectory that makes it an interesting place for people to come in to look at, pursuing their economic activities in India. And therefore, in terms of investment, India is today definitely one of the bright spots anywhere in the world. Second, he referred to China. By the way, as he mentioned, China is having the fastest rate of population compression anywhere, anytime in history. And we are, beginning to see the kind of huge disruption and shakeout that this is going to create. Fortunately, India is not in that position, and neither is Kerala, not anywhere near that position. But the opportunity for us is that, the rest of the world is looking to decouple from China for geopolitical reasons. And the one bright spot that they are looking at again is India. Again, opening up opportunities for manufacturing, for investment, for economic activities, for technology, and so on. And the third thing is, there are some very positive structural transformations that are happening in India. not perhaps as much as we would like, in that if we would like UP and Bihar to suddenly become Kerala in terms of social indices, that's not happening. But certainly, if you look at what is happening on the digital side, and I'm a little familiar with what is happening in, digital growth of digital India and digitalization and so on, India is definitely ahead of the curve. It is already estimated that the digital economy in India is around 8 to 8.5% of India's GDP. And the digitally dependent economy, which is slightly different from the digital economy itself. If you look at sectors that are dependent on the digital economy, that is also rapidly growing. And it is estimated that it will not be significantly lower than the size of the digital economy itself. So clearly there is a structural change that this is bringing about in almost every sphere of interaction. The other structural transformation that is happening is there is an unleashing of animal spirits across India. So if you look at the startup movement, if you look at the pace of innovation, if you look at the kinds of new ideas that are coming out of India, definitely there is a lot of room for, so it is throwing up new opportunities, and there is no reason why Kerala cannot leverage some of these new opportunities. Since Rajesh said that, can we also bring a positive flavor to this whole discourse, I want to spend just a couple of minutes on whenever we speak of a vision for Kerala, it is grounded in a certain narrative of the past. Because we look at what is the journey that Kerala has traversed so far, where are we headed directionally, and where should we be going? I think this session actually is supposed to squarely address that last part. Where should we be headed? And when we look at Kerala's development trajectory, the broad narrative, by the way, I'm putting in my caveat right now. It is not necessary that I subscribe to this caveat, to this narrative. The narrative is that, India threw up a lot of economic opportunities, especially post, liberalization. But Kerala has pursued a largely redistributive model of growth, and therefore, there has been a certain loss of economic dynamism. Similarly, in terms of the environment, there is a narrative that Kerala has been overly protective environmentally. Again, there is a certain loss of economic dynamism and growth. We have not given the market fair play. And the third narrative is that, Kerala had all the potential to become one of the leading digital states, but it has not. I would seriously contest all these three narratives, because on the contrary, I subscribe to the view that, the model of development and growth that Kerala has followed has actually given us a solid and robust base for us to build. The first building block in development is not really the technological revolution. It is the human capital base, which makes the technological changes possible and which also enables harnessing of those technological changes. And I think Kerala is probably the one state in the country that has got it right, that we have invested in human capital formation and therefore are in a position to now take it to the next level of development. The second narrative of environmental overprotectionism, I'm glad Joe went before me, because what he is showing is that actually, we need to mainstream environmental protectionism even more and not criticize the fact that we have been highly environmentally protective in the past. I mean, the question is, can Kerala alone do it? Obviously not. But at least the fact that Kerala has kept its environment largely intact, and I think anybody who goes out and sees objectively the state of our environment, of course, Anisha mentioned problems like waste disposal and other things, but barring, despite that, we can still say that environmentally we are far, far better than any other Indian state. And the third thing is on the digital dividend. You know, have we not been able to harness the digital dividend as, you know, Bangalore has done? But we've seen what it has done to Bangalore. We've seen what it has done to, you know, cities like wherever you've seen these IT enclaves. And I don't think that is really the model. Our own model of the Technopark and Info Park, in my view, are far superior. And today, you know, post the pandemic, anybody can work from home. And I think, therefore, this is actually a state which has harnessed the digital dividend for a much more equitable and inclusive growth than most other states have. So I do not agree with any of the narrative that actually is commonly put forward to show that Kerala is an outlier. Kerala is an outlier, but Kerala is an outlier in the most positive sense, is what I would submit to you. This is not to say that Kerala does not have its own challenges. You know, Anisha referred to those challenges right in her opening remarks. She referred to Mr. V.K. Matthews' article where he had highlighted many challenges. Joe, of course, highlighted, you know, much more profound challenges at a global scale. So, are we creating enough jobs for young people? Maybe not. Are we, you know, harnessing innovation and the other opportunities in diverse sectors optimally? No, there's always room for improvement. However, I would like to mention 3 areas where I think, you know, Kerala must focus on. And the first one is, there is no reason for the female participation in the labor force to be as low as it is. I was just looking up some statistics, and I was, you know, not very pleasantly surprised to find that Kerala's participation of women is around 25%, whereas Himachal, a small state, has almost 50%. So there is a conundrum there which I think needs to be addressed. And I hope that in the course of all these series of vision discussions and papers, we will be able to come up with concrete action points as to how this can be addressed. The second thing is that, you know, again, I picked up what Anisha said. We need innovation, you know, eco-friendly innovation to solve our own problems sustainably. Earlier when we spoke about environmental protectionism, I mean, it's a little strange that when it comes to our own environmental protection and the measures that our governments and people in the state have taken, we appear not to be, you know, cognizant of those steps. But when it comes in a highly diluted form called ESG, I don't know why the rest of the world wakes up and says we must do ESG. Focus on, you know, the environmental, social, and governance aspects of what industries do. So I believe that there's a huge opportunity for Kerala as a whole to leverage this ESG brand. And I would sincerely submit to, you know, thought leaders like Mr. Thomas Isaac and others that we must see how Kerala can really establish itself as the go-to ESG destination, and how everything that we manufacture, produce, you know, services, goods, everything should be given the ESG tag, because I think that has a huge cachet and will have a huge cachet going forward. You know, for example, if we were to look at tourism, I can at least think of one example where Jose Dominic has really leveraged this ESG concept and made it and made his whole, you know, suite of products and services and a global brand. I mean, I'm only taking one example, but I know there are other examples probably right here in this room. Okay, so I'm going to come to the last part of my remarks, which is on digital, and where I think Kerala has particular opportunities going forward. The first thing is what Joe represents, the rise of the creator economy. We don't have to have the IT outsourcing, big companies only coming in and adding to our GDP. the creator economy, many of you will be surprised to know that it was 10,000 crores in 2021. It's probably more. Now, Kerala is a great state for the rise of, innovators and entrepreneurs in the creative economy. The explosion of social media, the extraordinary talents that Keralites have in arts, in the visual arts, in film making, in content creation, whether it is in ed tech, health tech, all of this. So I'm looking at the creator economy in a broader sense, and I think this throws up huge opportunities. And I would actually request TiE to look at a specific set of measures that can establish Kerala as the hub of the creator economy in India. I don't think there is any other state which can really lay claim to becoming the first hub of the creator economy. The second thing I would like to mention is, electronics. I spoke about the decoupling earlier on. The decoupling is throwing up a huge opportunity. What India has done in electronics is a massive success story. Even though we have had countries like Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, etc., all of whom have made great strides, the kind of growth that we have seen in the electronics manufacturing and allied space is unprecedented. We have gone from almost manufacturing nothing about 3-4 years ago to today we're already talking about $100 billion mobile phone industry, and it is expected that this will probably go up to 150 billion, which is a very large number when you look at it. As we speak, there are companies and investors looking to grow the electronics industry because, as you know, almost all of it was in China, and now within a very short window, all of them have to look for alternate destinations. Electronics is an ecosystem kind of industry. So it is not that I don't think we can create the China model of 20,000 or 1 million people in a Foxconn facility manufacturing mobile phones as they do in China. But definitely there's a huge opportunity, and I think we should look at this very seriously. Third is the IoT, Internet of Things, where progress in material sciences and digital technologies are coming together. And I think that is a huge opportunity. I'm not going to spend too much time in this set of remarks. Maybe we can look at it more in detail when Rajesh comes back. And as I said, in terms of innovation and startups, I again think, Kerala is not second to any. Now, why is it that entrepreneurs are going out of Kerala to other places? There are obvious advantages, but we are also seeing a reverse migration. And I want to flag that to Joe. There are entrepreneurs who are coming back because it is now possible to work remotely. It is now possible to have collaborative production across decentralized facilities. I see that those trends gaining in momentum, and I think Kerala will definitely be able to leverage all that. So I don't know whether I have been able to pull you out of that mood of dark despondency that surely hit all of us when Joe started his remarks. But as far as I can see, and I have been looking fairly closely at the national scenario for the last 5 years, I have a fair idea about what is happening in the area of investment, industry, technology, innovation. And I certainly believe that Kerala's next phase of innovation, growth, the creator economy, creativity, etc., is set to boom and flourish. Thank you.
In the introduction to this seminar, it was stated the key question that we have to deliberate is that India is going to be in 2035 5 trillion economy, and where will Kerala be? I'm very confident. Now, it has to be elaborated. Cannot be done in 10 minutes. Now that I have more free time, with a vengeance, I am to writing books. So my latest book is titled, as Rajesh said, Kerala the another possible world. Now, let's be very sure we have not done badly. We are right in the front today. If you take the quality of life we have guaranteed to honorary citizens in Kerala, we are right in the front. Even if you take per capita income, it is 50% above national average. So, but the country is going to get transformed and new challenges are turning up in Kerala, so we also got to change. There has to be a paradigm change in Kerala's development. I shall try to outline what it is, the vision of 2035. One, definitely, for whatever be the objective, I wouldn't like to give up the economic justice, social justice we have guaranteed to the people of Kerala. The distribution, that's very important. Okay, India may be the fifth largest economy in the world, but per capita income wise, India would be 142. Now that per capita income is so unequally divided among the population, you can imagine what is the say standard of living of the majority. So that is something. We should preserve our equity heritage. I don't want to go deeper into that. Two, but the problem is the economic growth that we have achieved, 50% above the national average in per capita income, has bypassed, say, production sectors, particularly industry and even agriculture. So much so, we don't produce quality jobs in Kerala. And that's the answer for the concern that Matthews raised. People are migrating, young people, because we are not able to generate jobs up to the job expectations of the educated and unemployed. That's a very key issue. To address that, I think one gap that we have got to fill up is the infrastructure deficit in Kerala. The trains and motor vehicles run at half the national average speed in Kerala. We don't have even now a single kilometer of above 220 kV transmission line. Most of our, say, industrial parks are 70s vintage industrial estates. Can go on lengthening this. This has got to be overcome. This is a big challenge. That's going to take a pretty long time. For the simple reason, I said the first element of the vision that social justice we cannot give up. Education, healthcare, geriatric care, all will have to be continued. And therefore we will be spending, I think, a fair amount of our borrowed money in the budget for this. In a sense, they are all capital expenditure here in human resources. And therefore in physical infrastructure, there is going to be dearth of resources. How do you meet it? This is a big challenge. Now, the choice made was that government does extra budgetary borrowing and invest in infrastructure, overcome the infrastructure deficit, which will enable us to leap for the kind of impediments that today lies for investment in Kerala. How else you do it? The private corporate investment model is just not applicable in Kerala. say maybe the 6-lane roads, you can have service roads so that you can have, say, toll revenue model road construction. But take any other road, when state highways, can you ever think of such a model? What will be the cost of land acquisition alone to enable a revenue model of road building? It can be applied to your social infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and so on. And therefore, in this area, government will have to take the lead, and waiting for the surplus to emerge in the budget, it will be too time taking, and therefore a shortcut has to be taken. That's my argument about it. Clearly understanding the limitations, risks, etc. involved in this. But I am one who thinks that Kerala will start fiscal consolidation process in another 3-4 years. Anybody thinking, looking into numbers will see from 2006-07 to 2013-14, includes LDF and UDF, the tax in Kerala was growing at 20% per annum this year. No state in India has tax grown at this time, and our fiscal consolidation was remarkable during this period. Why? How? See, states could tax only intra-state transactions. All interstate transactions are central sale tax. So we are limited to this. So Kerala has been growing fast, but its consumption requirements have been increasingly met by imports, which we couldn't tap really. And the change that was made in 2006-07 budget was we extended entry tax to almost all the commodities, and our tax grew by 20%. In 2012-13, Supreme Court annulled this act, and our tax growth rate came down to 10% per annum. UDF changed, LDF came at 10%. This entry tax gone as a hemorrhage. Now, this is the reason I chose for GST. If anybody remembers, I was vociferously against VAT when it was in. So, with improvement ease of doing, ease of doing business, we should be able to attract investment into Kerala. But I am against looking forward for just corporate investment outside Kerala. We have to have a new breed of new generation of entrepreneurs from Kerala itself. One of my specializations before I joined very full-time active politics was looking into entrepreneurship in Kerala. Michael Tarayan and me have a paper on this. Well, one feature we understand is that entrepreneurship in Kerala has been very weak. You compare Chettiar community, Marwadi community, Parsi community, rest of India, it has been so weak. Even in the 1930s, when under Sir CP, all this railway industrial belt came, it was the Tamilian capital which came to Kerala for investment. We have been mostly looking into our trade and commercial plantation sector and so on, very cozy and comfortable. But now today there is an opportunity for young educated youth through startups, through innovation, move to become entrepreneurs. I think Kerala has to look forward them. They are the future. To do that, to achieve that, our entire education system, higher education system has to be shared. Now we transmit knowledge, not enough. We have to produce knowledge. And there has been atmosphere for innovation from this knowledge and moving into technology and investment. So I think this is the path of what I call knowledge industries. skill-based, knowledge-based industries. That is where our core competencies, and either we get investment to come from outside or we promote our entrepreneurs from Kerala itself. Now that growth path, there are 2-3 optimality conditions. Both have been mentioned. One is say gender justice, okay, something which is just absent in Kerala. You also mentioned that. Now here is a big opportunity, you see. Who are these women who are not in the workforce? It's not poorer strata. Their work participation rate would be almost equal to is the middle or lower middle educated women who stay at home, opt to stay at home because they cannot find an opportunity in the employment market. Discouraged effect, we would say. So they are all educated. Can you upskill them so that they work at home or near home or outside to tap the new post-COVID IT opportunities that are emerging? Can we make a program for that? So we choose a path of development which automatically will improve the women's participation, work participation. I will also add about one thing about culture. You see, that is often the vision of Kerala. See, now our per capita income has grown, and what are we doing with that income? A consumption culture has come about in Kerala, gripped Kerala, and you can see the sides of it. Say, worst is the most vulgar buildings that we construct. You have to just read Laurie Baker about the new architecture style that has come about in Kerala. Now, this consumerism is unsustainable, ecologically and socially. But nevertheless, when your income is growing, what do you do with that income? Just not material consumption, but cultural consumption. That requires a different taste, social taste for people, you see. You have to learn to enjoy art, theater, music, and such a culture has to be developed. A lot of people have found that I have wasted money. Say, the KIFBI projects, about 4,000 crores, not one or two, is investment for cultural complexes, Binale, the permanent venue, film city, this, that, and so on. So some people have asked me, how do you borrow this money and spend it on this? This is very, very important, you see. That and has to be developed. That we have also population who enjoy culture. Cultural consumption becomes increasingly important. I will stop here. There are other elements, See, for example, aging of the population. What kind of social security do we provide them? I'm against the institutional care for the aged. One, it is economically not feasible for the whole population in Kerala, and socially unacceptable. There's a quality of life to be looked at. Can we generate a kind of community care for the elderly in their own house? Same as for the sanitation. There's all this energy to waste to energy programs and big programs. I don't find much meaning in that. See, all this organic waste that we create must return to the earth. It should not just go into energy. The earth becomes as much poorer because if it doesn't return. And therefore, simple thing, you take care of your own organic waste. It's very so simple, We can all have septic tanks and septic latrines in our own house. Why don't we take care of little bit of our kitchen waste? It's a question of orienting people. So let me stop. This is a larger vision of Kerala. A Kerala which will be provide quality life for its citizens and also provide quality jobs for the new generation, and at the same time mood will be progressive culture, environmentally friendly, such a Kerala. And that Kerala would be right in front of rest of India. Thank you very much.
The speakers before me have painted the broad brush picture of their vision for Kerala. I think they are very much aligned in many ways, and I do not find any major reasons to differ with all that. So I will confine myself to some suggestions for a way forward for the manufacturing sector. And I feel, so therefore I will not labor the old theme. I think many here will be expecting me to again go on to show that Kerala is friendly to industry, etc. I think that case has been made, and I think the evidence is there, and there's no need for talking anything more on that subject. So, about a way forward for manufacturing. And I also am not going to establish or to try to convince you all that we need manufacturing. Because I don't think any vision of a economy based purely on services is workable, practical, or has been achieved anywhere in the world. In the history of economic development, it has not been done. So let's not have ideas that we are going to do it for the first time on this planet. So we need manufacturing. I take that as axiomatic. And how can we go about establishing a viable? So there are some things which we can do. I think one of the things which I see which we need to do and we can do in Kerala is create clusters. We already have some natural clusters which have emerged over the years. For example, and all these are in modern, high-tech, value-added manufacturing. So I think these are the operative words. Modern, high-tech, value-added manufacturing, which will provide well-paying employment for those who get employed in that. And we will, while I have nothing against employing Biharis and West Bengal people from there, they are all employed for all the wrong reasons here. That's for mostly I find. Either because they have very little sense of rights, because they're very far from home and they can't protest, and hence we can pay them much lower wages. But I think those kind of industries which I'm talking about, it will be very difficult employing these very poorly skilled, uneducated migrant workers who come from distant places. I'm talking about the kind of industries which I've listed in my book, which mostly employ people who are from this state, not because they have any bias towards the state, but because for high-tech manufacturing industry, you need educated people who can be trained. So the first suggestion which I have is clusters to be identified. And these will, some natural clusters exist, like a spice processing cluster around Kolanjeri, then an electronics cluster around Kochi, a medical devices cluster around Trivandrum, because there are already existing successful modern manufacturing enterprises in all these places. And possibly a biotech culture, about which I'm sure Sam will be speaking much more about, which is one of the sunrise sectors which we need to look at. So the first suggestion which I have is that we must actively promote the industries department. This must be driven by the government. by public policy. This other, in my opinion, very quixotic notion that government should just step out of the way and that the private sector will come in and all kinds of miracles will happen is contrary to the economic experience of every country in the world, including the United States and Silicon Valley. So I think we need to really get our understanding of all this much clearer. We are so much influenced by ideological stances on all this, free market enterprise versus some antediluvian idea about socialism, etc. So this is the first idea. So the second vision is also aligned to this, is we need to have a, we hear about public-private partnership, but we need to elevate that into what somebody has called very nicely a triple helix model. I think Professor Isaac is aware of that. I think you are one of the people who coined that phrase. A triple helix model, which we've all heard about the double helix model of DNA. But here this triple helix model will involve three strands. One is the government, the other is research institutions, and the third is industry. And by a close and symbiotic kind of collaboration between these three strands, in chosen areas, we will be able to develop a tremendous amount of synergy. I'm glad to say that the government of Kerala, especially the higher education, the commission, the Kerala Council for Higher Education under the leadership of Professor Rajan Gurukul has taken some steps, and I have been working with him on that. And one of the ideas is how do we see, to say that there should be collaboration between research institutes, industry and government is the easy part. How do you get these through these three entities which work in silos, how do you get them to start working together? Is a completely different proposition. So we need to, that's a lot of effort is required for that, and I'm glad to say that the Higher Education Council under the leadership of Professor Gurukul and a very expert team of high caliber scientists and scientific administrators from across the world who are all interested in Kerala had started working together on this, and some very interesting ideas are emerging, which I hope this will enable us to identify certain thrust areas, including say biotechnology, including medical devices, and certain other areas which can be selected by all stakeholders sitting together as thrust areas. You can't have too many thrust areas in this list. There must be 3 or 4. So say, just to take a typical model, just to give you some idea about what it will be like is, say, let us say, if we take medical devices. So on the one hand, you will have, on the one pole will be the government of Kerala. And then you have the institute or institutions, which will include the Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute, various medical colleges, the ISER, Indian Institute of Scientific Education and Research, which is a brilliant institute which has come up in Palod, then the Kerala Startup Mission. So all of them will constitute and other engineering colleges will constitute the institutes. And then you have industry in the third node. Now, that's part of the difficulty, because we all say that, yeah, industry is willing, industry is, but the example of the experience of many research institutes which have reached out to various industry bodies and even arranged visits, etc., is the lack of follow-up and the lack of interest and the lack of any energy coming from business and industry in this, either due to timidity for adopting new technology which comes from an Indian lab because it is seen as being risky or that it may not work, or some perceptions like that, but whatever it is, because my experience working with Indian labs is completely different. Not just the original technology which I got from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute, but subsequently the answers to hundreds of technical questions which I got, not only from working with Chitra Institute, but working with College of Engineering, Trivandrum, working with the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, working with the Central Food Technology Research Institute in Mysore, and so many institutions, we found a very interesting way of working, and the scientists there were very keen on working with us, with industry also. So I think industry needs to step up and ensure that this partnership works. The government of Kerala has already put one interesting measure which has been already implemented, which is called RINC, which is a Research Information Network Kerala. I think that is the expansion of RINK, which is a platform which they have provided where research institutions come and register, companies can come and register. Research institutions will place on the platform what are their key core competencies, what are the know-how and technology areas where they are strong, what are the equipment which is available in the research labs, what are the qualifications and capabilities of the scientists, and industries which come there can choose which of these institutes to go to. They can post questions, they can ask for a visit, they can and the whole idea of platforming is to try to get these conversations going, and once the conversations start, wonderful things will happen. So this is the second suggestion. And the third suggestion, which is linked to both the foregoing, is the fact that a massive skilling program. We need to run out a massive skilling program, not because there's some phenomenal deficit in Kerala compared to other states. See, in most discourse about Kerala, I find one of the big problems is when a statement is made that there's something very wrong in one particular aspect with Kerala, nobody looks at interstate comparative data. I mean, not that it helps us if some other state is worse off than Kerala, not at all. But the point is, we must have some balance to understand that this is not a phenomenon only restricted to Kerala. For instance, people talk about students leaving Kerala and going to other states for other parts of the world for employment. 3 days ago, I was in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, and visiting an old friend of mine who's a very successful businessman. That guy has 2 children, a son and a daughter. He is in a quandary. He was asking my advice because both his children have gone to Canada. They didn't go there because they had fantastic jobs or anything. They went there because for them that's the promised land. And they're leaving there's a successful running business here in Ahmedabad, the business capital of the business center, etc. Whatever, we have here some fantastic ideas of Gujarat. That state has the largest number of migration seekers, visa seekers out of India. Do you know that? It's not Kerala. Not that it helps the condition here, but the point here is, therefore, we need skilling. When I say that, I'm making the statement in a very guarded way that if we upskill our people, as Professor Isaac mentioned about housewives also, educated housewives, we will be preparing them for the kind of knowledge industries, the jobs which are going to be opening up, because those are the jobs which will succeed best here. You need highly value-added jobs to be able to pay the kind of wages and salaries and pay which will be of interest to the people from this state. So you need the skilling operation. There also the good news is something is being done, but much more needs to be done. The Additional Skills Augmentation Program, ASAP program, is a very good program. Organizations like TiE and others need to come on board. So these are the 3 broad suggestions about what can be done. But I will end with what I think is we will really have to think out of the box. And here we need people like Professor Isaac and Pandivel Tyagarajan, who's a good friend of mine from my school, but way junior to me. Now, we need people like them to come forward because of one factor. See, Kerala, the Kerala economy and the Tamil Nadu economy are extremely closely intertwined. Most of you sitting here know that. The GST data, which our mutual friend Sushil Khanna and I, we presented a paper at the CDS. Sushil Khanna is from IIM Kolkata. We presented a paper, and based on GST data, the interstate transfers happening from Kerala to neighboring states and mostly going to Tamil Nadu every year is in excess of 1 lakh crores. Okay. Now that almost equally matches the remittances coming into the state, which is about 1 lakh crores. So that's how the deficit is funded here. Now, so we have a way of funding the deficit, nothing wrong in that. And people need not think it is not a miracle, it is not a stroke of good fortune, it is the people of this state working very hard somewhere else, sending their savings back to this state. Okay, very normal behavior. It's not a miracle, it's not something which fell from heaven or anything like that, an act of God or anything. It is the people of this state, the efforts of the people of this state which has produced those remittances, which is helping them to pay for this thing. Now, the point which I am coming to is, the economies of Kerala and Tamil Nadu are complementary. I think it's time we started thinking out of the box. And when we prepare a budget here, and Tamil Nadu government prepares a budget there, this is fiscal federal, I mean, it's a federal polity. So I think it's time that at least we should start talking to, why not, as a vision, why don't we put a proposal to the Tamil Nadu government? Just look at the mutual interests involved. We have all the water that Tamil Nadu will need, isn't it? One example, we have Mullaperia Dam and then also the Siruvani Dam. Now they will be able to help fund it, we can construct it, we can store it, and that can transform the agriculture of Tamil Nadu. They have enormous land resources and they have the ecosystem for large factories which we don't have. We can specialize in say design and the service, highly value added services for a booming manufacturing sector on the other side of the Western Ghats. Why can't we have these complementary kind of services? Nobody is missing out. Everybody finally in economics, the theory of comparative advantage in trade is precisely that. That's how countries and regions develop their trading powers. So that's the last and let's say the most counterintuitive suggestion which I have here is that actually I hope that a time will soon come where people like under the sage counsel of people like Thomas Isaac, we will have K.N. Balagopal here and Palnivel Tyagarajan there sitting together and preparing their budget together. So I mean, in a way, at least their growth path, because I heard Palnivel Tyagarajan say, for example, in the last conversation we had, that Tamil Nadu's GDP was $300 billion or so. And their vision, the DMK government's vision was to raise it to $1 trillion by 2030. And they have a year-wise plan worked out. And for the first 2 years, they are already on target. He is very confident that they are going to achieve it. It's not a pipe dream or something like that. So when plans are worked out by professionals who know what they are doing, they will become reality and they will happen. And that's my final wish, that I wish that professionals and including from business and industry are also taken into the councils of government and they all work together and are able to, from industry's point of view, at least work on these 3 ideas which I suggested. And I hope that Tamil Nadu and Kerala will find a way of working together because of the complementarity of both the economies. Thank you.
I will just start up with looking at. Joe is going to be beaten up every time, so I won't spare Joe either. So, but let us look at how we ended up the place that Joe said. Right? Joe put 3 big problems and said like, hey, we are here, so bad. So I'll take a few minutes to just explain at least the common view of how the world landed up here where we are now. There are 2 problems are global. One is a local Kerala one. So we'll discuss the Kerala one separately. But let us look at the global problem. Population, climate change, right? It's just not for us alone. So population, how did that happen? And this climate change also, how did that happen? Both are intertwined. Both happened in the last 200 years, really, if you look at it. Before that, we were also struggling like any other animal, more or less, in the world. And along with this growth, the climate also started getting really bad. Climate goes through cycles, irrespective of what we do or not. But we have really, the Homo sapiens have managed to screw up the climate in a much more faster and efficient way. We have been the biggest pest that Earth has seen. But very clearly, we named ourselves very nicely. Homo sapiens means wise man. in Latin. Right? We got a chance to name our species, so we called ourselves wise men. But we have not been very wise. Not on purpose, right? We never really planned to say, we didn't have a target like this to get to 1 trillion. We didn't say we are going to get 8 billion people, 100 years back or 200 years back. Or neither did we say that, we are going to increase the temperature and we are going to screw our home and, make it polluted and all that. We never planned for any of this. This happened all this happened basically because of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution in the 1800s was the changing point for humanity. We finally figured out, right, that we could make more stuff, we could harness the power of steam, electricity, all these technologies started coming up. And we could feed more people, we could live longer, and we could, then. So the first 100 years of that 19th century was driven by chemistry. Rapid developments of chemistry gave us fertilizers, gave us petrochemical industry, all that changed our lifestyle and changed our capability to harness more from the earth, more energy, more production, all that happened. The 21st century gave us, the 20th century gave us physics. The revolutions in physics really gave us all the next set of developments. Nuclear power, telephones, even the computers, chips, which led to internet and all the good things, the mobile phone, everything that we have. And each of them, we call it convergence. Many of these technologies and things converge together to produce unimaginable, developments that happen. But all of this had tremendous consequences. The tremendous consequences was, one, we were growing too rapidly as a species. Second, we were really spoiling Earth in every way possible. Drilling it, mining it, spoiling the oceans, polluting the atmosphere, anything, so bad. But there is an answer. So that is the 21st century. Our current century is really providing the answer with biology. So chemistry wave is over, physics wave is over. Now this is the bio wave. This is the century of the bio wave. Why is that? That's because finally we could do sequencing of the DNA. We knew about 50 years back that DNA was the material that was transmitted between generations, but we slowly then got the structure out, then we got technologies by which we could sequence the DNA. So then we can get the letters now that make the code. It's only 4 letters that make the genomic code. So we can sequence it. And that suddenly opened up the power of the Homo sapiens. As the first species in the whole of the life in Earth, the 3 billion years of life in Earth, a species is able to look at its own code. From a computer background, we call it the source code. We have the source code of life in our hands. Right? So the first human genome was sequenced in 2004, 2003, 2004, and that gave a tremendous boost to the world, because then a lot of companies and the governments put in money and put up very advanced technologies. The first human genome took about 12 years and cost more than $3 billion to sequence. Now you can go out and sequence your genome for $200, right? So that is less than 15,000 or 60,000 rupees. So that is the way the cost fell in the last 15-20 years, and the speed also increased. What took 12 years, now I can do it in 2 days. Right? Any small lab can do it in 2 days. So the power of this is huge. So this power, if really used now in the next 20 to 30 years, will solve most of the problems that all the people before me spoke about. I'll tell you how. So one of the biggest problems that we all face is our health, right? We have health problems. Now a good significant part of our health problems are based on our genetic makeup, right? We all know that. I mean, heart disease, cancer, many of these things most of these diseases are based on genetic information. So already in the last 10-15 years, many new drugs are coming out which are targeted, which are targeted to a genetic thing. Cancer is not like a single disease, and cancer is not really like an organ-based disease, though we call it breast cancer or lung cancer just because the cancer happened to come there. That's the old way of looking at it. Really, it's a genetic disease. Some gene or set of genes went wrong, right? So that the same genes can cause the problem in breast cancer or lung cancer or head cancer or whatever, right? So it's the gene that you need to look at. So drugs are coming out. Unfortunately, these are all developments happening in the West. So most of these drugs are not either available here. The ministers can afford to go out. We may not be able to go out to get treatment. So not sir. In general. So the wealthy also, not only that, so the wealthy can also go out, but other people can't go out. So we will need to develop these drugs in a cost-effective manner in India. So the genomics and genomic biotech technologies will help. Secondly, we need to get more food. So we meaning as a country. I'm not talking about Kerala alone. Kerala is not a country. It's like a state. So we don't need to be self-sufficient in everything. It's, like others said, like it's more than okay to get food from Tamil Nadu or the other places. But we have the brains here. So we need to make sure that better crops are produced. We need to make sure that yield is more. We need to make sure that, because the earth has been so screwed up, we need to make sure that these new crops can withstand drought. So they need to be drought resilient. They need to be, so there's scarcity of good water, so they need to be salt water resilient. All this can be done through the power of genomics. We would have done it actually 10-15 years back itself. We didn't need all these powerful new genomic technologies. Even with the older technologies we could have done, but unfortunately it was policies. So government policies and some hype, because of the bad hype created by the word GMO, genetic modified organisms. And many people, either funded by other multinational companies or calling themselves NGOs, stopped our growth for 10-15 years. Now the current government is trying to change the rules and make it faster. But guys, there is no other way out. We will have to modify these plants and even animals to make them better and make them give us more yield. It's a short-term goal, but what I'm trying to say is that the long term, I think there are much better ways, but in the short term, next 20-30 years, that will be the way to go. And we will need to make more with less. With less land, less water, less energy, we will need to produce more. So the technologies are available that let you do that. It is just the policies and the adoption of new technologies here. I will get into why India has been so behind in these new technologies. So this leads to the third wave, which is going to be the real master wave, that is in biomanufacturing and synthetic biology. So many of these things which Bala was saying that we will need to do in the manufacturing is going to be, has to be a very important sector, but a significant part of that manufacturing sector has to be biomanufacturing. Biomanufacturing is where by which you get bacteria or microbes or yeast or these things in large fermenters to make the stuff that you want at a very high efficiency and with very low input. So that is, how is that possible? Because of genomics. So we know, let us say a plant produces, we get an oil, let us say we get sandalwood oil. It's such a pity that you have to cut so many sandalwood trees to get sandalwood oil, right? But the sandalwood oil, you can actually get some bacteria to make it in a large fermenter at a fraction of the cost. Because you can take the genes that create the sandalwood oil and you can put the genes into the microbe of choice. A lot of work has to be done. I'm making it very simplistic, but you can do it. It has been done. It is being done. There are a lot of companies across the world moving into synthetic biology and biomanufacturing. Some of the leading companies are actually led by Malayalis. So the fact that a lot of Malayalis went out of the country has actually been very good for us. Right? If they were not there in different parts of the world, not only is the money that is coming up, the 1 lakh crore, but huge amounts of knowledge and huge amounts of technology lies in their brains across the world. So it is just not the old joke about the Malayali tea shop guy. There's a Malayali scientist also and the Malayali CEOs also across the world. So we can bring them and we will need to piggyback on them. Waiting for our scientific research organizations to come up and build all this is going to take too much time. We will need to build them up. I mean, there is no way to avoid that. But that can be done only by leveraging our NRI. Need not be Malayalis alone. There are non-Malayalis outside India. Outside Kerala. And actually, there are so many people. All people like to come to Kerala, or India. So a large number of scientists. I will be more than happy to come visit and collaborate. And we don't need to move them back. I tell to other Malayali scientists also, don't come here. We are very happy here in Kerala. You stay there. But we will send scientists there to get trained. You guys come maybe once in a quarter or once in 6 months. Have maybe even a lab here. I built up the whole genomics country, genomics companies, just by depending on our very good scientists abroad. And unfortunately, none of the research organizations in India or Kerala could step up. Bala was lucky, I think, in these areas where he could get the help of the research institutions here, because the technology might have been a little behind, not cutting edge. If you get into cutting edge of genomic research or gene therapy or synthetic biology or biomanufacturing, there is not a single institute of global repute in India. I can guarantee that. If you argue, just show me the number of papers published, number of patents that they have in these areas, number of products that they have brought out to the market, and the answer will be very, very clear. I am not being negative. Just as I said, this can be fixed. Two things we can do. One, as much as possible, collaborate with our scientists, Indian scientists and others who are willing to come here and work with them. China has shown a very effective model. So many, even Indian scientists have labs in China. They give like $1 million a year. Okay, you have a lab here. You have to come 4 times a year. You have to do these projects. We'll give you money, research money. So we can also adopt that approach. We should allow foreign universities to come in. Like somebody was mentioning about the college buildings that are there. That's not a problem. That's a huge asset. Let us bring in, let us ensure, give open this thing to any good university, any university, not even good or bad, who is willing to come here and stop. We give the place. We say that, hey, we also give a thing like, hey, though we are in a bad shape, luckily for us, there are other countries across the world which are even in badder shape. So they will be more than willing to come here and study, right? So we can provide education, and that will fund more of our children to go. I think I would strongly encourage more children to go out, because it will take a few years for our research institutions to come up. So we should encourage other students currently to go out. We should give scholarships, in fact, so that it is not restricted to the rich people. We should give grants based on merit, and it is very worthwhile investment if you are able to get people. And instead of going to Ukraine or China or these other countries, they should really go to the West. That is where the best technology is, most democracy is. That is where they can go, and that is where they should learn. So we should encourage them to go to the right places. It's great that 500 odd placement agencies are there in Kochi. We should even help them to fine tune and go into these areas which is of great interest to the country and to the state. So the Kerala government is actually very active here. We have been very pleased to see that Kerala government is going to start a Kerala Genome Center next month. Genome Data Center, you will see. Because why? Kerala is one of the most blessed places in the world. This much biodiversity you can never find in except 1 or 2 places in the world. So we have a huge wealth of animals, plants, microbes, butterflies, birds. Anything you look at it, we have a huge wealth. Now this can be sequenced and put into a data center and can be used for our health, for our biosecurity, for our synthetic biology future, for biomanufacturing. So these are the areas the government needs to go into. I think like Bala said, we shouldn't do too many, just focus on 2 or 3 areas. Sir already put 4,000 crores into putting culture. I'm a great fan of culture. Maybe another 4,000 crores into bioeconomy will boost the bioeconomy, and I can guarantee you that we can be the leader in India, and not only in India and the world, because of the heritage that we have, the biodiversity that we have, the great brains that we have, and then our kids all will come back. When they have good jobs here and all that, they will come back. The goal is to create jobs, solve our problems, and not spoil the economy. All this can be done through the BioWave. Thank you.
We have another 20 minutes with the speakers. What I would suggest is, if there is a point which you have missed in your earlier sections, if you want to add, that's one. If you have any other ideas or any specific points which we could take as which we could take as for the paper, and from Joe we want 3 positive points.
One, I think Kerala and Keralites, if you ask me what is our core competency, I would say we're extremely hospitable people. I mean, we would, nobody takes care of others like we do. Go to a Keralite's home, you're treated royally. I mean, this is what everybody else says. So, and that, by extension, we see that happening in nursing. I'm told by people in Europe that any hospital pays a little extra if you're a nurse from Kerala. And the whole world knows that no nurse anywhere can beat us, beat a Kerala nurse. We've proven this from Germany in the 1970s. That must have been the first case when in any society, women went out to bring bread for the family. It was Kerala's women who went out as nurses much before Kerala's men went to the Gulf. Men going out and earning bread is the norm. But women going out, even before men did, is a Kerala specialty, and they continue to thrive, continue to have that brand name. Kerala must have nursing colleges. If all our engineering colleges are vacant, they must become nursing colleges. There are any number of takers for any Kerala nurse. The UAE, when it gave golden visas to Mohanlal or some celebrities a year ago, that made news. Today, people do not know any Kerala nurse gets a golden visa. They are in such demand that you only have to be a nurse, you're equal to Mohanlal. That is the situation. But that doesn't make news because everybody gets it. Only nurses, no one else. 2, responsible tourism. I think Kerala has got that core competency extends to taking care of nature. Many of you in this hall may not know what Sam Satosh has done for Kerala for preserving our genomics in the larger sense of the word. We've all heard of this Hortus malabaricus. He's tried to bring all those, all the 700 odd plants, 740 odd plants mentioned in that book to one place. He's almost there. He's got, I think, only some 40-50 left. And, that's going to be, I think you should make a museum out of it for everybody, every Keralite to see. I mean, just like we should visit the Binale, we should visit Sam Santosh's place and see that. So, responsible tourism is another. And third, I don't know how to make a format it, but our curiosity to explore the world, explore everything. Who would want to, many people in the world would like to live and die where they are. When I lived in the Bombay YMCA 30 years ago, I had a couple of friends from Bombay in the Bombay YMCA who had never gone outside of Bombay. And they would always, in arguments, they would say, you guys haven't seen a big city. So you come from Kerala and you live in Bombay. I live in the center of the world, Bombay. I don't need to go out and see your place. So, many people are like that. But we are so curious, we are so open to everything. I think which is why we are so colorful in our personalities. We welcome every kind of idea, every kind of concept, which is why we grow and thrive everywhere. We adapt everywhere. So I think that needs to be nourished in every youth. So going out is not all bad. There is so much good about it. So that needs to be encouraged.
Adding together what Sam said, Bhagwal and Aruna, I'd say put them together. You have the architecture of what I call knowledge economy. What it means is that the technological base of the economy becomes more and more knowledge intensive and innovative, so that productivity is enhanced and therefore returns to workers and entrepreneurs are much higher. Now, I think I'm not going to say about General Kerala, what TiE can think about. One, okay, the president said about gender justice, participation of women in work. Aruna referred to it. And we know educated women are out there, outside the formal economy. Now, present digital economy provides a lot of opportunities for working from home or near home or from here. You don't have to go abroad. So why doesn't TiE take initiative to make a survey of, say, in the next 3 years, the companies outside and inside related to you, what are the job opportunities that would come and the skills that are required, and enter into understanding with the colleges or institutions to do customized skilling, so that those who get the skills, acquire the skills, have better opportunity to get employment. See, these are eminently possible. And before the budget, whole lot of consultations did take place. And that is a near consensus that emerged. But everybody hesitating where to enter, make the entry. This is a simple thing, can be done. You take initiative for this. Just to demonstrate it can be done. We have a small foundation for fisher folk children, Pratipati Ravinalapi, Joy Sebastian, who won the National Video Conferencing Innovation Challenge, is the chairperson. So we did a simple thing here. We went to all the info park firms and asked them next 2 years, what are you hiring and what kind of skill you require. So there's no obligation on your part to recruit the people, but we'll do the customized training. I tell you, 100 persons were employed. And your creative economy, now so many edu apps are coming up. They all require artists who can do, have the digital skills. So around 30, 40 have been trained, local fisher folk, many people, and most of them have got job already. So this is something eminently doable, see. Second, to create an environment for innovation. That environment doesn't fully exist outside the innovation in the startup village and so on. It has become the ecosystem for the whole state. We were thinking of having a 5-day meet of the theme of knowledge, innovation, and technology. Bringing together entrepreneurs, scientists, technologists, and also academic people, everyone who is interested in this. We are only providing them platform. We are not going to impose any ideology. You have the platform, you can come here, sit and discuss. Something on that line of World Social Forum. Most of the technology institutions in Kerala are on the platform, in the organizing committee and so on. I think a lot of other countries, people will be joining in, because many people are feeling interested in this. That something like this is being consciously organized. So Latin American new governments, many of them might come also. So, see, it's an opportunity for the organization. You can do what you want. The theme is that we bring together technologists, academics, policy makers, entrepreneurs. But they all come together one single space over a period of 5, so that it generates a minimum kind of energy than dissipated all over. So I think the organization could think about that. So I stop here, these two. Very practical nitty-gritty for the organization.
We'll open it up for questions. Just a quick pointer. Do ask brief questions and ask a question. So we would want to gather as many questions as possible. Try to avoid comments and a general something which occurred to you. If you think it'll be of use to the larger audience, do share. Otherwise, do ask a question.
Panorama, my question is to Balagopal. If you want Tamil Nadu and Kerala finance ministers to sit together before their respective budgets, what do you want them to put in their budgets by way of funding or projects or programs? What to put in their budgets, which that you haven't mentioned?
Economies of these two states, there is a lot of complementarity between them. So if they sit down together, they will be able to, for instance, when the finance minister of Tamil Nadu is planning, let's take an example, planning the spending on the irrigation and front for increasing agricultural production there. One possibility he today is not able to even consider is, where is he going to increase the supply of water? You can't produce water, so he cannot get it from anywhere. Now, supposing this consultative mechanism were there with the finance minister with the government of Kerala, and if that door is open, and there is a plan, and it's not on an annual basis, it can be a review, but if you adopt a 5-year kind of planning exercise together, then definitely they can plan many more such small storage reservoirs linked by tunnels through the Western Ghats, for which all the technology exists today here. And if that is done, that can make a transformational impact in addition to all the other technology solutions which Sam has suggested which is a really big option. But here is something else, because India is mostly a water stressed country, where the large areas of which are severely water stressed. So I think a lot of things have to change, which can be better done if there is mutual consultation between neighboring states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu. That's what I meant. I had no specific projects in mind.
This question is actually talked about gender equality in job sector, women participation. So I actually had a slightly different perspective. Like, talked about unskilling, upskilling them. But one of the other fundamental problem is the last mile connectivity and the inability of them to step out of the house because there is an ecosystem that depends on them. And that could be addressed if they have support mechanisms in terms of last mile connectivity, as well as ways to take care of the rest of the family, especially young kids, or when they have a system around them that they need to support. So what has been done ever, or is that a plan that we could add?
Now in between we are going to have a professional career. He's going to raise a lot of pressure at home, raise a lot of questions and so on. Therefore, we have to collectively think about how to reduce the housework, because there has to be a reduction in that. And otherwise, this will result in the double burden of the women. So one experiment that has been going on, which I find very, very interesting, is, say, 20-25 houses. Many places that have come, if you want to go to Kannur University, you will find the staff quarters, this program running. Okay, one family agrees to cook for everybody. That's no rice cooking, but curries, tiffin, everything is cooked and delivered at 8:30 to the house. So, for example, the morning rush, women rushing to the office, then cooking or taking care of a child, etc. is gone. It saves a lot of money. Cost of food is reduced considerably. And people are able to have better nutritious food here. In this hurry of going to the office and then preparing the children for school and so on, causality is that something is cooked up. So this is called Common Kitchen Program. We like to think about that. Or there can be other enterprise modes. For example, you go to Wellgates. They have independent each one. So you can choose to pick up 1 or 2 curries, that's done. And then you have a rice at home. See, we like to have a number of curries for your meal. And to cook all of them is difficult. So, well, you can have this enterprise modes also. Third, a concept was introduced, smart kitchen. Okay, have labor-saving devices in the kitchen, which reduce considerably women's labor in the kitchen. Instead of still about 50% of the women do it. Now change it. So these are this is an issue that has to be kept in mind. And therefore, I would say still not working from home. Take her out of the home first. We must work near home, which means that every local government should set up she lodges where work can be done and so on, so women can come work. So this is the mode. In fact, when Aruna was speaking, I was thinking you were going to go. It's a centralized place. We have more dispersed kind of workplaces or IT and other activities.
I'm Nancy Johnson. I am from the field of dental technology. Sir, my question is for Minister Thomas Isaac. Sir, I am from the manufacturing as well as education industry of dental technology. And the major, I'm not an experienced entrepreneur, I'm just beginning my journey. But a major burden which I'm facing is, I'm into manufacturing and I'm creating manpower and educating new youngsters. But the support, I feel I'm not getting support even from the education part. The recognition of so-called vocational courses. The possibility to do vocational courses, the possibility for us to recognize what we are doing. I'm facing a tough time. I'm facing threats for that too. just because I am trying to do my best to handle the handful of students whom I have and helping them to create a future and be independent. So I actually am looking forward for support from the education sector to be more open for encouraging skilled labor, skilled industry. So we can actually fulfill the dream of TiE Kerala, an entrepreneur in every home.
Now I understand what you are saying is they are very narrow in the scope of activity. More innovative courses said crafted by people like you are not recognized. Well, that's something to be discussed with them. See, there is an organization called KDISC, which is supposed to look into this kind of issues, and I think you should write to them. And that is the appropriate body to discuss.
Actually, Kerala has been a tradition where coconut trees has been one of the backbones, and yield per hectare or per coconut has fallen like anything, like 9 pins. So people want price to be stabilized. At the same time, coconut yield has to be risen, and which will give him the right amount of money from one coconut. It has got two things. One is output, then is value addition. So toddy is a good thing for an output to be given to the entrepreneurs. But unfortunately, government machinery has not been favorable for that. So that is where Kerala's tourism will get a good mileage. And output increase, how is it possible to take the yield of coconut to at least 500, which gives 10 rupees per coconut to 5,000? Is it possible in genomics?
Mention about not only coconut but pepper. Coconut and black pepper is what Kerala was famous for, right? So black pepper, even 4,000 years back, King Solomon, Shiva's dowry included black pepper from Kerala. So black pepper Kerala is very well known for. But unfortunately, we are very behind now. Now we are only the number 4th country or 5th country producing black pepper. And that initially our argument was that, it is only quantity, but quality wise we are the best. But even now, even in quality, other countries like Vietnam, Brazil, all are beating us. Coconut, for example, even our neighboring state, our friend Tamil Nadu is also beating us. Much better coconuts. Long back. But yeah, the solution is there. But only problem with a tree like coconut and all that, it takes years. Because it's not a tree, not like a plant like rice or something which is like 120 days or 150 days, you can do a cycle and get results out. Here we will need a few years because the tree has to grow, and getting the results out takes, proof of that takes time. But still, if the government allows genetic modification, what would otherwise take 10 years, we should be able to do it in 3-4 years. There are good institutions in Kerala, CPCRI in Kannur is a good one, but they have all been playing with like cricket with one hand tied. So there's so many regulations, so many restrictions, very little money, so they are not being able to really play the game well. If we empower them with very little money, we can definitely increase the yield of coconut, pepper. Maybe we should choose 5 or 10 crops which are important to us, and not only just go for yield, go for quality, right? So increase the quality, better quality.
2 points of intervention. One is you increase the productivity of coconut through various ways. Other is value addition of the coconut. Nobody except Malayalis eat coconut as such for curry. Others are all value added products. Say, take the coffee for example. The price why not farmer gets is 10% of the final price of coffee in Europe. 10%. Now if you are able to move up the value chain and raise the share of the farmer to another 10%, 20%, farmer's income is doubled. Which would mean that we specialize in branding your coffee, which means that we have coffee powder. Now getting coffee powder to brand would mean certain cultural practices, mixing in the right way. These are nothing impossible. The Arka Valley Adivasis in Andhra. Nobody has heard of Andhra producing coffee. It's not a coffee producing state.
But Arca Valley, they have their shops in Paris. And the illiterate Adivasi in Arca Valley, I have gone and seen, gets the double the price of what the educated Malayali farmer in Wayanad gets. So the challenge is to move up the value chain, value added, improve the technology, and so on. It's possible. See, I wrote in 40 years back a pamphlet, my first book, on coconut, where we calculated that of the total value addition that in Kerala, contribution of coconut to the GDP of Kerala, only 60% is contributed by the price of coconut. Rest are all price of the byproducts, the value addition, coir, then shell, charcoal, or coconut oil and so on. Today, just see, our contribution of coconut will be 90%, value addition would be 10%. Yeah. Because entire raw coconut, husk, everything goes to Tamil Nadu for value addition. So value addition is the only solution to ensure a higher price.
Handle the pests properly. A lot of yield shortage happens because of pests and viruses and all these attacking this thing. So coconut trees has been one thing which has yield has reduced dramatically due to various diseases. So that also I think the government will need to play.
Yield is taken to 500 and price of the product is maintained on same levels. That will lead to the customer getting at a fair price and compete against the other oil crops. That should be the aim of the government and the output. So how much money will be required to launch a project which will give a 500 tree per output of coconut as per your estimation?
It is not going to be a very expensive thing, but like I told you, it is more going to be time and policies. Time will take, it will take a few years, but like 4 or 5 years, and the approval to do with the latest technologies. Both those are done, we can get it done. I don't think cost is going to be like a huge factor, maybe a few crores at the most.
I don't know, may I ask you one question, panel to panel question. You are very positive about the possibilities of Kerala. Not only now, you always have been. But I hope you will agree, you were an IT secretary here and you are so positive. But now after 20 years, can you reflect why we haven't made we have not met the expectations that were there at that time? Of course, we have moved forward. There's no doubt regarding that. We have moved forward, not backward. But what is holding us back?
Sir, as I mentioned in my remarks, I don't believe that the conventional model of IT outsourcing, where you employ large numbers of people in a single facility, is the solution for Kerala. In my view, the model that Kerala adopted of having, a sort of hub and spoke. Both Technopark and Infopark were actually intended to be a hub and spoke kind of concept, where you could have larger companies inside the park and you could have smaller boutique outlets which were actually who were making IT products. That is where the value addition comes. So when you spoke about coconut, there is an exact analogy to the IT industry also. In IT industry as a whole in India, we have not actually moved up the value chain. We have not been able to make IT products. And in fact, so now there is a huge effort at the Government of India level to move away purely from IT outsourcing. Now, unfortunately, the pandemic came and has restored the primacy of IT outsourcing, because as companies in the West wanted to cut down, their use of labor and move to IT outsourcing, that has given a fresh lease of life to IT outsourcing. Otherwise, the general assessment was that IT outsourcing has perhaps peaked, and we now need to look at newer models where we can harness digital technologies for creating a wide range of goods, services, and products. In my view, where Kerala has fallen short is in the latter, that if we could have had more companies coming and making products and services around the digital technology engines that were available, I think we could have seen a much larger increase in the number of jobs. But having said that, the fact is that a large number of Keralites actually went out. So if you look at Bangalore or Hyderabad or Chennai or even Mumbai, I'm sure at least 15%, 10 to 15%, or maybe even larger number will be from Kerala. Now, if people prefer to go out and work in the IT industry outside, there is a certain challenge in IT companies coming here. So in fact, I used to be on the board of some IT companies, and they were all looking at, now especially post the pandemic, they are all looking at cost effective destinations. Now Kerala destinations are highly cost effective. So they would always come back with the counter argument, why should we go to Kerala? Because these youngsters are coming to us. Now that is a larger issue where, you know, youngsters, unless they believe that the quality of life is changing here, and by quality of life, what they expect is, for example, now I think the Biennale has changed perceptions about Kochi. Youngsters are now coming in droves. In fact, at the recent Biennale, I was saying, I spoke to at least a dozen entrepreneurs who are all working in America, who have come back and shifted their businesses here, because they now find that Kochi is a happening place. But in the whole of Kerala, Kochi is the only happening place. Trivandrum has still not acquired that cachet. So I think that is more of a, you know, it's a slightly different issue. And unless that issue changes and so the whole IT industry is about young people. Like when we spoke about the creator economy is all about very young people. Now, if these very young people have to stay here and create IT products, and content, then the environment here has to be attractive enough for them to stay.
Saying the quality of urban space.
No, the quality of urban space is top class. I don't think there's any other city. It's not that. It's a certain, it is also, I think, somewhat of a herd syndrome. Now, if every young person goes to Bombay, then goes to Bangalore, then they also want to go. Now, if you see a lot of young people coming back to Kerala, then, so the inward movement, as I said, has just started. I am now beginning to see young people moving back.
The whole development literature, an important concept is the global cities. Global cities, look, take for example Dubai, what they do. They created a global city here. They have the museum, they have this, that, etc. And they have the art show and everything. And then for a New Yorker to move into Dubai, it's almost the same. Now,
Except that you might
in
go
Kerala,
to, except they might put you in jail any day.
Oh yeah, that's it. But still,
No, what I meant is that so places like us, Kerala or India, are so much better, right? Like practically many countries.
no, there is
We don't
somebody who
appreciate.
said here, why do you go abroad? You have freedom. It's not just freedom to wander around anywhere easier. And you want to experience a new theater, symphony, or you want to see a museum. There are these opportunities which are just absent here. This all adds to the quality of life here. And therefore, it's important. That's what I said about the urban space. Not just infrastructure, quality of life. Yeah.
So I just want to, my question is directed to Mr. Isaac and Adranji. I thought for retaining talent, or two things important is ease of doing business and ease of living. So ease of doing business we have addressed a lot of time. So ease of living, can we improve upon it by employing digitization of governance? Today, we struggle with everything, our land records, even conversion, anything from application approvals. We have K-Swift and all doing for the industry, but of common man. So I believe, when youngsters move in droves abroad, they go for quality of life and ease of living also. So culture, yes, can attract back, but ease of living, if we employ, can it not work, or will it work? One. Secondly, another side to it. You mentioned Dubai, Isaac sir. So urban planning, I think we are very weak in. In one of the last discussions we had in TiCon, our former chief secretary admitted that Trivandrum city is yet to have the master plan. So can we at least, can we think in terms of it to undo all this and build a master plan for Kochi or Trivandrum? May take a long time, like Sir said about the deficit in funding, for the infrastructure. So can we think of setting up a model town with everything in place, or model village perhaps, with the epitome of urban planning contributed to it. So two sides. Thank you.
Would be a little surprised if it is really the lack of ease of living that is keeping young Keralites from coming back. If you look at, a young Keralite working in Noida, working in Mumbai, working in Bangalore, they commute 3 hours minimum per day. They are staying in much smaller places. The levels of pollution are sky high. So it is not ease of living, in my view, that is the issue. They are still going there because, one, let's not forget that.
May I just interrupt, because I was comparing to the benchmark of international cities where the Keralites would compare to. It's by your Singapore or New York.
I heard you on that one.
Sorry, yeah.
But even there, people's ideas of quality of life have changed so dramatically that, even people some people actually who are better off would perhaps prefer to come back to Kerala and work from their village if they have connectivity rather than remain in New York. So quality of life, people are becoming especially the young, are extremely conscious about health. They're extremely conscious about the quality of air. They're extremely conscious about equity. So if you look at those parameters, I don't really subscribe to the view that it is ease of living. And now, thanks to digitization, whether it's the state or center, practically every service is now available. You pay your electricity bill, most of it is available online, right? It's not very different from the US. See, I visit Silicon Valley every year. I have been doing so from 1996 almost, except a few years pandemic, etc. So when in my discussions, I don't find that. But youngsters definitely have questions like, they are not worried about, will I find a house? Will the quality of air be good? No. They want to know, is there a venture funding source that they can tap? Is there an incubation center where they can interact with industry? See, they want a knowledge pool that they can tap into. Please don't forget that they have access to huge knowledge pools. So whether you're in Delhi or in Mumbai, you will have 30 CEOs that you can have access to. That is what they're looking for, because their self-advancement depends on that access to that knowledge pool, both in terms of intellectual stimulation, business development, all that. Now, how do you create that ecosystem? Now the physical importance of that is diminishing, fortunately. But it's still, obviously physical contact. So as he said, can we create much more tightly networked clusters between policy makers, industry and academia? So academia plays a big role. And where Kerala, I think, can do really much better is in ensuring that this tie-up happens between the young and academia.
So my name is Senu. I am a startup founder. I represent the, startup community in Kerala. So a couple of points. One is the point which you mentioned. Look, I believed in Kerala and the vision Kerala. For me, first of all, it's an acknowledgement that I'm sitting in 6 process teaching the business school type of amazing lecture, and it's good. For me, when I'm coming to Kerala after 13 years of my experience, a lot of people told not to go to Kerala because this the place will be only known for Hartal. There are a lot of people are told that you will not get talent here. A lot of people will tell you will not get networking events, and good VCs networking or mixer group will not be available here. A lot of people told that you will not get a good funding if you are in a Kerala or you are a Mallu or start a company from Kerala. With all this fight, we came to Kerala, started a company here, believing the vision of Kerala. And right now, within 1 year, we are able to raise at least a 20 crore funding. We are able to get all the unicorn founders to, so they started seeing, okay, you are the first company which we are going to invest. Even Facebook MD has invested on our company. So we believe in Kerala. That's one point I had to tell. Second, the suggestion is that the question which Madam and was debating, Sir was asking, the funded startup, when we get people from other state to work in Kerala, look, we are in Kerala Startup Mission. If they cross the HMT colony and come, they are thinking that they are going in forest. So where is the transportation? Look, we are making the facilities available, but to reaching there for these people from other state, it's a cultural shock. There is no activity there. There is a hidden area. There is there is a digital hub. Inside it is digital. Outside it is forest. So the people will be expecting the transportation. Every day they have to take from HMT colony an auto rickshaw. It is not viable for them to reach to the KSM. Second, the funding. Until unless the HNI groups of Kerala and the Malayali community of the great world has to start funding the Kerala ecosystem, and the great tycoons are available here, they uplift or they adopt a startup and uplift them. Where will we have money to take more staff to give salary? Look, go to a CRED in Delhi or go to a Paytm in there. They're getting amazing funding and giving 40,000 BMW, where we can get only 20,000 and auto rickshaw ride to KSM. So the funding community has to be strengthened here. Third, the Info Park, opposite to Info Park, there is a Skyline apartment. There is, if a boy or girl staying together or 5 girls stay together, the police is raiding them. So the cultural thing has to be come to a stage that, okay, there's a vibrant community has to be formed. We are discussed about the whole community and everything. A vibrant community is expecting so many things that I'm telling there should be a limit of thing. I'm not telling the out of the boundary areas, but the ecosystem has to also start adopting that a vibrant startup ecosystem will be building when the community is also starting up. That's one side I have to tell. Second, as a suggestion, as a Kerala as a vision, we are blessed with the tourism or the hub. Look, the Thailand is 7 crore population. Kerala is 3 crore population. Thailand is having $5,000 million of medical travelers coming every year. Kerala is on the 8th position of India. Why can't Kerala become the medical travel hub of the world? This is the golden opportunity available here, but we are not utilizing that. Whether it is tourism or medical or Ayurveda, apart from a couple of hospitals here, it is not penetrated up to now. So we have to become the medical travel hub of the world, not for India alone. So we are on the 8th or the 9th position now. The third thing is that you were discussing about the female coming. Look, my wife is a BTech first rank, MTech first rank, PhD from IIT Madras. She is a postdoc from King's College London and an AI scientist, a well qualified girl. Seeing me building something here, she came back from UK and resigned and going to start a company here. So people are started coming back. Females are coming back and they want to build Kerala and to show that we can build from Kerala. But this was not the time when my father went to Gulf to uplift me. So my mother, even though she's a technically qualified, she can't go out of the house to make sure that to uplift for her to get a job. So one is that the trend is changing, but the ecosystem has to adopt to that and make sure that support is given. The last point which I have to say is that a couple of things which we see as a challenge here is that the language. The English language, look, we have to compete with the rest of the world. The better entrepreneurs are there, but they are not able to communicate or convey what is in their heart to compete with the other thing, the bigger world. So we have to make sure that how we can make them a quality product to make sure they can also compete with them. Second, I asked.
So, with improvement ease of doing, we should be ease of doing business. We should be able to attract investment into Kerala. But I am against looking forward for just corporate investment outside Kerala. We have to have a new breed of new generation of entrepreneurs from Kerala itself. One of my specialization before I joined very full-time active politics was looking into entrepreneurship in Kerala. Michael Tarayan and me have a paper on this. Well, one feature we understand is that entrepreneurship in Kerala has been very weak. You compare with Chettiar community, Marwadi community, Parsi community, rest of India, it has been so weak. Even in the 1930s, when under Sir CP, all this railway industrial belt came, it is as the Tamilian capital which came to Kerala for investment. We have been mostly looking into our trade and commercial plantation sector and so on, very cozy and comfortable. But now today there is an opportunity for young educated youth through startups, through innovation, move to become entrepreneurs. I think Kerala has to look forward. They are the future. To do that, to achieve that, our entire education system, higher education system has to be shared. Now we transmit knowledge, not enough. We have to produce knowledge. And there has been atmosphere for innovation from this knowledge and moving into technology and investment. So I think this is the path of what I call knowledge industries. Skill-based, knowledge-based industries, that is where our core competencies, and either we get investment to come from outside or we promote our entrepreneurs from Kerala itself. Now that growth path, there are 2-3 optimality conditions. Both have been mentioned. One is say gender justice, okay, something which is just absent in Kerala. You also mentioned that. Now here is a big opportunity, you see. Who are these women who are not in the workforce? It's not poorer strata. Their work participation rate would be almost equal to is the middle or lower middle educated women who stay at home, opt to stay at home because they cannot find an opportunity in the employment market. Discouraged effect, we would say. So they are all educated. Can you upskill them so that they work at home or near home or outside to tap the new post-COVID IT opportunities that are emerging? Can we make a program for that? So we choose a path of development which automatically will improve the women's participation, work participation. I will also add about one thing about culture. You see, that is often the vision of Kerala. See, now our per capita income has grown, and what are we doing with that income? A consumption culture has come about in Kerala, gripped Kerala, and you can see the sides of it. Say, worst is the most vulgar buildings that we construct. You have to just read Laurie Baker about the new architecture style that has come about in Kerala. Now, this consumerism is unsustainable, you see, ecologically and socially. But nevertheless, when your income is growing, what do you do with that income? Just not material consumption, but cultural consumption. That requires a different taste, social taste for people, you see. You have to learn to enjoy art theatre, music, and such a culture has to be developed. A lot of people have found that I have wasted money. Say the KIFBI projects, about 4,000 crores, not one or two, is investment for cultural complexes, Binale, the permanent venue, film city, this, that, and so on. So some people have asked me, how do you borrow this money and spend it on this? This is very, very important, you see. That, and as we develop, that we have also population who enjoy culture. Cultural consumption becomes increasingly important. I will stop here. There are other elements, See, for example, aging of the population. What kind of social security do we provide them? I'm against the institutional care for the aged. One, it is economically not feasible for the whole population in Kerala, and socially unacceptable. There's a quality of life to be looked at. Can we generate a kind of community care for the elderly in their own house? Same as for the sanitation. There's all this energy to waste to energy programs and big programs. I don't find much meaning in that. See, all this organic waste that we create must return to the earth. It should not just go into energy. The earth becomes as much poorer because if it doesn't return. And therefore, simple thing, you take care of your own organic waste. It is very so simple, We can all have septic tanks and septic latrines in our own house. Why don't we take care of little bit of our kitchen waste? It's a question of orienting people. So let me stop. This is a larger vision of Kerala. A Kerala which will provide quality life for its citizens and also provide quality jobs for the new generation, and at the same time will be progressive culture, environmentally friendly, such a Kerala. And that Kerala would be right in front of rest of India. Thank you very much.
Your rate of interest is sustainable debt. That's what economics is. But then you bring in a whole lot of formula and so. See, that is a temporary position taken to leapfrog your lack of, say, infrastructure in Kerala. You do extra borrowing and do it, get it done. But it requires a social support base. A social support base which is being undermined, which will end in the failure of the strategy. How can Kerala go on with pursuing the existing roads and so on? Without this extra budgetary provision, do you think ever the national highway would have been realized? Kerala had, from which budget are you going to give 6,000 crores to purchase land? See, therefore, there has got to be social consolidation of public opinion, need for taking it forward. So, I would seriously say kind of positions which undermine such social consensus will not enable us to move forward. But Kerala is still a state where you can say that opinion, but the atmosphere in many states is not that.
This is embedded in a federal polity. Its freedom of action is severely constrained. You take the case of, and within the community of states in India, this is the best performing state by all yardsticks of human indices.
Exactly. You're comparing that to the world.
Yeah. No.
Compare this with the world. That's all I'm saying. Don't compare that with just that.
See, an underdeveloped country, a state in an underdeveloped country, comparing. Okay.
I don't agree with that.
Let me put it this way. See if it is agreeable to you. Now, look, if you take the condition of women in Kerala, education, health, and so on. Every measurable indicator is much superior. But when it comes to social status of women, is much lower. Why is it so? It has got two aspects to it. One is your ideology itself. That every one of us have imbibed so much the patriarchal ideology. You all think, and women also have accepted it to a large, that place is in the house. That's one. Second, that would have been broken if women's participation in the employment has been equal to men. They get the same wages, the perception that they are earners, not homemakers, becomes public. And therefore, this is a challenge I would accept to be taken. This is a challenge. And that's why the vision of Kerala, everybody said, gender equality becomes important. That's something to be imbibed for.
My name is Deepak. I live in Bangalore. I'm part of the non-resident Malayalis network. Our friend raised a very important point. How do we tap into the talents, monies of the non-resident Malayalis across the world? I mean, I've seen a time when IIM Bangalore could not get enough applicants for this NSR program. You wouldn't believe it. There used to be a time 20 years back, they used to ask startups to come to get incubated, and they wouldn't get enough startups. And I've been to Indore, and I'm part of several entrepreneurial ecosystems, and Kochi will grow. In terms of entrepreneurs, it is guaranteed. Not just Kochi, every tier 2 city. I see Lucknow having a lot of entrepreneurial energy, Indore having a lot of entrepreneurial energy. Bangalore has also become very expensive. So tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities will also grow. So that is taken for granted. The one problem I have with entrepreneurs in India, and I don't know whether it applies to Kochi, is the ambition is low. Like for example, Spotify in Sweden never thought itself as a Swedish company. It always thought itself as a global company. In the tech world, apart from Zoho, we don't have any examples. Of course, Infosys, Wipro, if you leave that, but the ambition to create a large global company, I see is less. Because even the examples that I heard till now, it's still very Kerala centric. Why can't we create a global company? And I'm glad that Sam mentioned some of the examples, but I think we need to have a mindset which we can produce global companies based out of Kerala. And my question really is, how do we tap into the diaspora Malayalis, the global diaspora Malayalis? Thank you.
Till now, we had very few companies to invest in, right? So there weren't that many companies, so that feeling like now this is a good example. There are companies coming up, and there are one unicorn already there. So I think in a year or two you will see enough funds coming into Kerala, provided there are good companies. So it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg story. Malayali diaspora will really step up. They have been wasting money building houses, right? So they will stop that and start investing in companies. We just need to make sure there are enough companies for them to invest. The last 1 year, I spent time looking for a biotech company in, let alone Kerala, in India to invest. I couldn't find one. So there's a lack of entrepreneurs with a large vision, with strong backing and strong education, and willingness to work with exciting ideas. Come and do here, you will get money.
My name is Cherian. And my question is to Dr. Thomas Isaac. See, the fiscal deficit, India's average is 2.5, whereas Kerala is about 4.17. So I'm asking you as an economist, isn't that quite alarming? The fiscal deficit, India's average is about 2.5, whereas Kerala's is 4.17. Dr. Tyagarajan was saying they have a core expert committee with Raghuram Rajan and so many others who advise the Tamil Nadu government on how to go about their functioning. Do we have any such arrangement? Does the Kerala government have any such arrangement? Or do we have an expert committee who's there to advise us?
Economics, there is no theory which tells that appropriate optimal fiscal deficit 3, 4 or 5. 3 is taken because European Union, the Maastricht Treaty made it 3. Otherwise there is no economic theory. Now COVID came. which country in the world had a fiscal deficit lower than 4%? 6, 7, 8, 9% fiscal deficit. So how much fiscal deficit has to be would depend upon the economic conditions and situation. That's what Keynes taught. And when COVID came, everybody became Keynesians. All right. Now normal times have come, they would want to bring the fiscal deficit down. As a development economist, I would say how much fiscal deficit has to be there should be decided by the development requirement at that time, subject to sustainability conditions. Now, this situation, this context of Kerala, where it has to step up the infrastructure deficit, I wouldn't mind Kerala deficit going beyond 3%. 3 is the no, not 2.1, 3.17.
No, the national average is
National. Now, look, this is precisely the point. Do you know what is the average fiscal deficit of central government? They are also supposed to have 3%. Their average fiscal deficit more than been 4%. If you take the entire post-FRBM Act period. So there's an asymmetry here that central government can, despite the law, have any level of fiscal deficit, while states as a whole, just as you said, their average fiscal deficit on the pre-COVID period was 2.75. So state as a whole never bridged it. They have been much below the permitted level. But then there is a state, given the development strategy, needs to have a higher fiscal deficit. Why can't it be accommodated in the federal system of India? See, that's where you need to have certain minimum federal flexibility before all the states walk up to, say, need for spending on education, healthcare. Kerala has been spending on education and healthcare, attaining all these marks, therefore couldn't invest in infrastructure. So for a temporary phase, you need to have a higher fiscal deficit. But for the macro economy of India, it doesn't matter how much state A fiscal deficit, B is the overall fiscal deficit of the states is 2.75. I'm very happy with that. So permit this fiscal federal flexibility, and a central government which has never followed, not even a single year, FRBM Act. They always had a revenue deficit, 2 to 3%. They always had a fiscal deficit 3.5 to 6. Then they're trying to discipline the state. That I wouldn't accept. That's it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for this wonderful discussion and very, very interesting interaction from all of you as well. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you.